She lifted her welding mask. I said, I didn't expect an angel behind the sparks. The first thing I noticed was the rain hissing as it hit the hot metal, turning the air into steam and the workshop into a breathing, living thing. Sparks exploded like small suns in the dark, flying in every direction, sharp and fearless, and for a second I thought I was watching something being born rather than something being repaired. My hands were shaking, not from the cold, but from the weight of another day that had already defeated me before it began. I had come here broken in ways that had nothing to do with steel, and I had no idea that the sound of welding would become the rhythm that stitched my life back together. Before the story goes any further, if you enjoy emotional, real, and cinematic stories like this, take a moment to like the video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who loves deep stories, and subscribe to the channel Stories Beyond the Porch. Your support keeps these stories alive and reaching hearts that need them. I was never supposed to be in that workshop. My life had taken a wrong turn so quietly that I didn't even hear it happen. One year I was full of plans, convinced that hard work and honesty were enough to guarantee a decent future, and the next year I was carrying disappointment like a second spine. The job I loved vanished when the company shut down. The friends I trusted drifted away once I no longer had anything to offer except silence and worry. Even my own reflection had started to feel like a stranger, someone older, heavier, and tired of hoping. When a distant relative mentioned temporary work at a fabrication shop on the edge of town, I accepted without pride or excitement. I needed money, yes, but more than that, I needed a reason to wake up without feeling like a failure. The workshop stood behind a row of half-dead trees, its walls stained with years of smoke and effort. Inside, everything smelled of iron, oil, sweat, and stubborn survival. Men moved around with practiced indifference, carrying sheets of metal, grinding edges, welding joints, each person locked into their own routine. No one asked questions, and no one cared about your past. It was a place where your worth was measured by what your hands could do, not by what your dreams used to be. That suited me fine. I didn't want sympathy. I wanted noise loud enough to drown my thoughts. That was when I first saw her, though at the time I didn't really see her at all. She was just another worker behind a welding mask, her figure outlined by sparks that danced around her like fireflies trapped in a storm. The light from the arc flared and faded, illuminating her arms steady and confident, her posture calm in the middle of chaos. There was something almost poetic about the way she worked, as if she trusted the metal to obey her intentions. I remember thinking that whoever she was, she belonged there in a way I never felt I belonged anywhere. Days passed in a blur of heat and exhaustion. My body ached in new places, my hands grew rougher, and my mind slowly learned the language of machines and measurements. Yet every now and then, without meaning to, I found myself aware of her presence, not because she demanded attention, but because she carried a quiet focus that changed the energy of the room. She didn't joke loudly or complain. She didn't try to prove anything. She simply worked, and in that work there was dignity. In a world that had stripped me of my own sense of worth, watching someone so grounded felt strangely comforting. My biggest challenge wasn't the job itself. It was the constant voice in my head reminding me of everything I had lost. Late at night, after the workshop lights were off and the smell of metal still clung to my clothes, I lay awake questioning my choices, my failures, and whether this was all life had left for me. I felt stuck between who I was and who I was supposed to become, unable to move in either direction. The workshop paid my bills, but it didn't heal my doubts, or at least not yet. One afternoon, the power went out suddenly, plunging the workshop into an uneasy quiet. Machines died mid-motion, sparks vanished, and the only sound left was rain tapping on the metal roof. People stood around, annoyed and restless, waiting for instructions. That was when she lifted her welding mask. The motion was simple, almost casual, but it felt like the world shifted slightly on its axis. Her face was calm, marked not by arrogance or softness, but by resilience. Her eyes carried the weight of long hours and hard-earned skill, yet there was warmth there too, a kind of steady light that didn't need sparks to be seen. In that instant, the thought crossed my mind, uninvited and undeniable, that I didn't expect an angel behind the sparks. She didn't smile dramatically or seek attention. She just wiped her forehead, looked around, and waited, as patient as the metal she shaped. There was something deeply human in that moment, not perfection, not mystery, just strength and grace coexisting without effort. It reminded me that beauty wasn't always gentle or fragile. Sometimes it was forged under pressure, shaped by heat, and made stronger by every crack it survived. As the days turned into weeks, the workshop became more than a place of labor. It became a place of quiet lessons. I noticed how she helped others without being asked, how she checked joints to ensure safety, how she respected the craft instead of rushing through it. Watching her made me reflect on my own approach to life. I had been so focused on what I lost that I forgot to value what I could still build. Metal didn't care about your past. It only responded to what you did in the present moment. Slowly, without a dramatic turning point, things began to change inside me. I started taking pride in small improvements, in cleaner welds, in learning from mistakes rather than resenting them. My hands grew steadier and my mind quieter. I realized that struggle didn't mean the end of the road. Sometimes it was the road itself, shaping you as you moved forward. The workshop taught me patience, and she embodied it. Her presence challenged my assumptions in subtle ways. I had grown cynical, convinced that hardship always left people bitter. Yet she carried her burdens without letting them harden her. I didn't know her story, but I could sense it wasn't easy. No one ends up in a place like this by accident, and no one masters a craft without sacrifice. Seeing her thrive in an environment that many dismissed as harsh made me reconsider my own judgments about success and fulfillment. There were days when my old doubts returned, heavy and uninvited. On those days, the workshop felt suffocating and the noise felt meaningless. But even then, there was comfort in routine, in the shared rhythm of work, in knowing that progress didn't have to be loud to be real. I began to understand that healing doesn't always come as a sudden miracle. Sometimes it arrives quietly, hidden behind sparks and sweat, waiting for you to notice. As months passed, I realized I no longer dreaded waking up. The workshop had become a place where effort mattered, where mistakes were part of learning, and where respect was earned through consistency. I was still far from where I once dreamed of being, but I was no longer ashamed of where I stood. The man who walked into that workshop, defeated and unsure, had been slowly reshaped, just like the metal we worked on every day. Near the end of that chapter of my life, as another project came together under our hands, I understood the true meaning of that first moment when she lifted her welding mask. It wasn't about romance or fantasy, it was about recognition. Seeing someone strong, skilled, and quietly determined reminded me of what was possible even after disappointment. She was a symbol of resilience, a living proof that dignity can exist in overlooked places, and that angels don't always wear wings. Sometimes they wear protective gear and stand unafraid in the fire. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of your own struggles or inspired you to keep going despite the heat and pressure, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to Stories Beyond the Porch. Your engagement helps these stories reach others who are quietly fighting their own battles. Before the ending, I have a special request for you. In the comments, write a single line about a moment in your life that changed you in an unexpected place. Your words might become a light for someone else reading them. I left that workshop eventually, carrying with me more than just new skills. I carried respect for honest work, faith in slow progress, and the understanding that even broken paths can lead to meaningful destinations. Whenever life feels overwhelming now, I remember the sound of rain on hot metal, the dance of sparks in the dark, and the moment an ordinary afternoon revealed extraordinary strength. And in that memory, I find the courage to keep building, one imperfect piece at a time.